I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about what does it mean when your ex reaches out after some time?
This can be confusing.
It really can.
Before we get into it, Craig and I are available for coaching, so if you would like to engage with us in a session to talk about your situation, head to the website and book from there.
That's right. Just click on Schedule Coaching, and if you'd like to schedule myself or Victoria, Victoria's at the top of the page, and you could schedule with her.
I didn't know it was at the top of the page.
Oh, well, you got top billing. So, exes often take time to come back. Years ago, a lot of people used to talk about 30 days and this nonsense about leave your ex alone for 30 days, ignore your ex for 30 days. It just doesn't work like that. Okay?
No, people are far too complex.
No. They don't come back usually in 30 days. Now, there are some breakups where sometimes people are rash and harsh and they get into a fight and they didn't really want to break up. But if it's been building up, it typically needs a while to turn around. And I know that's frustrating and upsetting to hear when you're going through it because time feels so slow. It just feels like every minute is an hour and every hour is a week, right? It's
It does
just
go by
awful.
incredibly slow.
Oh, because all you want to do is repair. All you care about is talking to them and fixing things. But unfortunately, it just takes a lot more time than you want it to take. Now, I think that's a good thing because it allows you some clarity, some perspective to work on issues so you can see things clearly and prepare for when they come back.
Right. And I think in that time period, your ex's process is really important to them too. So we're going to get into why your ex might take some time to reach out to you because this is something that is really confusing and sometimes we don't know how to make sense of it.
Yeah, it is. Especially sometimes your ex will actually tell you, well, I think we should talk soon, or I think we should talk, or maybe we'll get back together in 6 months. How many times do you hear that?
Often.
I want to get, let's see how we are in 6 months. So meanwhile, you put your life on hold for 6 months, holding them to that, but they're thinking, wait a minute, I said that, but I wasn't really sure if it was going to happen.
They might not even abide by that. They might contact you 8 months later, a year later. You're like, what?
Or not at all.
Or not at all.
And you're just like, wait, we were supposed to have, I've seen people with scheduled talks.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen people where it was like, let's talk again on January 15th.
At 3 p.m.
And so they're obsessing about January 15th.
Yeah.
And so they're constantly thinking about it, wondering about it, if it's going to happen, and then you want to reach out. But, it's better for you to leave them be and let them reach out. Because if they really want to talk on January 15th, they're going to reach out.
Right. And to me, it's just something to hang over your head. This can be something that's cruel, and I'll admit that I've done this as a dumper, So have given someone a timeline before, and I think it was just my difficulty with asking for space at the time. So that is something that can happen, and it can be confusing because you expect them to reach out a certain day and they don't. But sometimes you don't expect them to reach out at all, and then you hear from them.
Sure.
And it's so confusing. And in this video, we're not talking about not hearing from your ex for a week or two. Okay, typically it's some months that pass. And so that's what we mean by hearing from your ex after a while, after months. Why did they wait so long?
Why do they wait?
So the first thing is that they need time to go through with the breakup. All emotions serve a purpose, and even their coldness, even their distance is serving the purpose of separation. So they need to be cold in order to separate from you and in order to go through with their decision. There's a lot of exes who don't want to give the impression that they're leading someone else on. They don't want to say that they're 100% into the relationship when they're not. And so that's why they initially need that space. And sometimes breakups can be very heated. Not all breakups are amicable. And I would even argue that most breakups are quite emotionally charged if it was a significant relationship. And so people need some time to be able to cool down. And depending on what kind of attachment style you have, that can mean either less time or more time. And I'll let you guess which one needs more time.
The avoidant usually needs more time because they shut down. Their whole life, they've had to shut down. And so if they are feeling pressured, they don't feel like they can connect. They feel like they're trapped. They feel like they're doing something against their will. And you don't want them to feel like that. So you need to let them kind of shut down like a robot and recharge and reboot at their own speed. And it's tough because everything inside you is the opposite. Let's fix, let's repair. I want to talk to you. I want to communicate. I care about this. But for them, it's going to overwhelm. And if you do that, they're not going to feel that mutual attraction any longer. It's going to feel more like a coercion. And if you've ever think about somebody that has liked you too much, it's not a good feeling. Like, honestly, it can be overwhelming. And it's like, I wish they would just calm down a little bit.
Yeah. And avoidants get overwhelmed quite easily. So we bring that up just to, get you to think about how some of your behaviors might affect them.
Yeah. So let them shut down for a while and come back when they're ready. Don't try and rush the process. Take a look at things and reevaluate and regroup. Figure out if the situation is healthy for you. How healthy is it? What you can do to fix things. And just think more clearly about the situation, which is so hard, especially in the beginning.
Right.
But in the beginning, the ex is feeling...
Separation elation.
Yep.
So this is something that we've talked about before, and it's basically the high that a lot of dumpers get right after going through with their decision for a breakup. And it's so confusing because you are feeling terrible. Meanwhile, your ex is having the time of their life. They're feeling liberated. They're feeling free. And that's quite normal. They've gone through with a decision that they've probably put some thought into, that probably part of them was scared to do. And that does take a lot of courage, and it does cause someone to feel independent. So they might have this period of separation elation that might last even several months, depending on the relationship, depending on how long it was, the quality of it. And so this is quite normal to see. And
I actually had a therapist who follows our channel, and we know locally, and she messaged me that she's avoidant and didn't think she would miss her ex, didn't think she'd feel reattracted to him or wanted to be with him again, but because he went no contact, now it's surprising her the experience of going through it. And now she's like, I can't believe this. I thought I would never want this person again, but no contact is working on me.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see your ex being in their own element, doing their own thing. And it's interesting to see your ex in their own element, doing their own thing, going out, feeling free. They might be going out more than they have the entire relationship all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah.
So you start to get all sorts of feelings on the other side of this.
They look like a different person sometimes.
Oh, yeah. So this process can take months, and it's part of their decision. They didn't want to feel tied down to someone. They didn't want to consider someone else or go through with the normal things that happen in a relationship where you have a partner. You have to think as a duo. So now they're thinking independently. They're thinking for themselves, which is not always a bad thing. We talk about healthy selfishness on the channel sometimes.
We're always taught, like with society, that being selfish is only about you, and that it means you don't care. But it's healthy to be selfish for yourself too.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be selfish to be balanced. It can't always be about other people, so you have to find that balance.
Right, and it can't always be about you, Craig.
Fine. But I disagree.
Separation elation does have an expiration date. I know many of you see your ex in this new light and you think, man, they're never coming back. They are just having a grand old time. What would want them to come back to this relationship? It does have an expiration date, because just as people value independence, part of our developmental task as an adult is also to balance out dependence, also to balance out connection and connectedness with others. So that's just a natural part of it. Another big reason as to why they might take their time is because they need to be settled in. For some of you, you have been in relationships for many years. You might have a lot of ties connecting you. It might involve somebody moving out when you break up and settling into a new home. And so they might not be in that mind space of even thinking about repairing a relationship when they've signed a new lease to a new apartment that lasts for a year.
Sure. I mean, if you're thinking about this new place, your focus is on, we're done, we're over, we're not fixing this, I'm moving forward.
Right.
At least in the beginning, because that's you have to focus on that to get it done.
And all the commitments that you're making further reinforce that. Signing on to the lease, buying lots of furniture, whatever other steps happen in your life. And for some people, during a breakup, they might get a career change. They might move to a different city. They might make a drastic change in their life.
Yeah.
And so they might need some time to really get settled in to their new reality before they're able to even consider messaging you or even having a conversation with you.
Absolutely. I mean, we see a lot of those things happen. A lot of time, I was doing an email coaching just the other day where the woman had to move to another state, and that was a big part of the breakup. Start a new career.
Yeah, it happens more often than you would think. And it's difficult to separate when you're living together. You have to think about your stuff. We talk about exes intentionally leaving things at their ex-partner's house all the time.
Oh, and they do.
They do. And so it can be a process, when you've lived with somebody for several years.
Costanza.
What is that? You have to
It's a
explain.
Seinfeld reference where George goes to the girlfriend's house and he leaves stuff there each time so she can't break up with him. And every time he leaves, he goes, Costanza. It's his last name, so she doesn't forget about him. And then she's like, I can't stop thinking about you for some reason.
So, yeah, be like Costanza. No,
Don't be like George Costanza. Don't be like George Costanza. Unless it's opposite day.
Right. So this thing does happen to where your stuff is all intermingled, is all mixed up, and it's a process even to break up. Much more to settle into your new place and figure out what your new life looks like. So they might need that time. These are all things that happen. If you do hear from your ex, even after all of these things that we might have mentioned, them having separation elation, settling into their new life, maybe their anger is dissipating, maybe they're having some time to process the breakup, then what does it mean? If you do hear from your partner after all of these things that we mentioned that might be going on their end, processing the relationship, whether they're settling into their new life, whatever it might be,
Missing you.
They might be dipping their toe in the water.
The indirect, direct approach.
This is something that we see most often.
I miss the cat.
Yeah.
It is the number one thing I have heard over the years. For some bizarre reason, it's I miss the cat. Now, other coaches will come to our channel and change it to I miss the dog. But the truth of the matter is, oh yes.
I miss the rabbit. I miss
Coaches
the hamster.
that we've coached personally, by the way, you and I.
Interesting.
They say, I miss the dog, but it's not the dog. Bizarrely enough, I
cat.
don't hear exes say, I miss the dog.
Interesting.
It's usually the cat, almost always the
And
cat.
sometimes it'll be a picture of the animal. That they
Yeah.
Or this reminded me of you, whatever it might be. So there will be some type of reach out. Most often we see the indirect, direct approach.
Yep.
But it could be them dipping their toe in the water to see where the two of you stand. They might have settled in. They might have had some time to process. They might have had their fun in separation elation. And now they are really set in with the reality of their decision where you are no longer around.
A lot of times they get overwhelmed with anxiety that you have not chased them. You've let them experience the space. One day they kind of wake up with so much anxiety that they're shocked. They can't believe it. It's almost like the breakup just happened for them, that they finally get more space than that they were expecting. And they just are like, I can't believe I miss this person. I can't believe I want them back. A lot of times, no contact does surprise them. They think that they're moving on. They mean it at the time of the breakup. And then, boom, one day it hits them and they will start to reach out to you. And sometimes they will start to vomit their feelings to you.
If your ex was more anxious, you might hear, I've thought about you all the time.
Yep.
You've been on my mind.
But it's very important that you are not eager or overly enthusiastic in these situations. You got to keep your mouth closed and listen. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Believe me, it's going to be tough. But you have to do it, because when you stay quiet and allow them to talk, you're going to hear so many of the things that we share in the emails. I thought about you every day. I missed you all the time. I was happy with the breakup at first, but then as time went by, I started looking at your social media, missing you. I was thinking about your mom. I was thinking about the cats. I missed the cats. I mean, you hear them say these things all the time if you allow them the space to open up.
Right.
It's so interesting. One of the things that people are always shocked by is your ex will start telling you about everything that's happened in the last 5 months, like you guys never broke up.
Yeah, and silence is a treasure in those moments. You don't want to be overly enthusiastic, because them missing you and reaching out to you, them even dipping their toe in the water, them being curious or anxious enough to reach out to you, doesn't mean that they're locked in for another relationship. So they still might be easily overwhelmed if you overwhelm them. If you're overly excited and, immediately trying to get them back into this relationship, or immediately trying to get them to meet up with you or talk with you constantly.
Yeah.
So it can be a lot for them still. Dipping their toe in the water is exactly that.
I would say the biggest mistake you can make is getting on the phone with them and having a 4-hour conversation. I see that mistake a lot. Their ex reaches out, they finally connect, and instead of, a 10-minute talk and saying, hey, we should get together very casually, they talk for 4 hours, tell the ex everything, and now the ex loses interest again. So you have to be prepared that when they reach out, you have to understand that every moment you have with them is important. Every decision you make is important. And you can give away months of no contact in a short conversation if you're not careful.
Right.
Your goal is to ultimately have fun with them and reattract them.
Right. And it's really about being emotionally centered when you do hear from them. I know it's been a while, so there's that buildup from all of that time that you've thought about reaching out to them, or you've hoped that they would reach out to you. But when the moment comes, it's important to be emotionally centered. It's important not to jump to assumptions and conclusions and then try to pressure and push. Being balanced is the best thing that you can do, and to understand how they've gotten to this point.
Yep.
So they might share with you some things that they've been through. It's important to remain calm and maintain your center while you're hearing them out, and you want to be open to what they have to say.
Yeah, it's not easy, but if you're doing the work, if you're truly working on your issues, your attachment issues in no contact, it's going to be a lot easier, and you're going to be a lot more prepared. If you're only watching no contact videos, when they come back and now no contact is gone, well, what do you really have? You're not really prepared for all the things you're going to have to do in navigating going forward.
Exactly.
So exes are going to keep their cards close to their chest a lot of the times, especially when they first dip their toe in the pool.
It's the phrase of the day.
Right? Yeah. But once you start chatting with them or seeing them in person, that's when they may start to open up. But it's not usually the first conversation.
Right.
So you want to be careful. You need to take things slow. You don't know what their agenda is, and you need to figure it out. You need to see what's been going on their end, where they're at, what they're wanting. Don't look eager, because if you do, they're going to lose attraction again quick.
Right. And take some time to process it. If you haven't heard from your ex for a while, hearing from them can be a shock.
Oh, yes. It will be a shock. I've talked about the guy who actually threw up on the phone with me that time. He was so anxious about it.
You just wonder, is this real? Is this...
Yeah, he was so stressed out. It was awful to see him go through it. But don't be surprised if your ex reaches out. If you give them time and space, a lot of times they do. But it means being consistent in your approach, in not reaching out, and not trying to close that gap and reconnect with them. That's the only way no contact really has a big impact on them.
Exactly.
All right. So hopefully this one's been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.